Good morning, Facebook. Remember the Robin Williams movie, Good Morning, Vietnam? That just came to my mind. So welcome to Zen Fits, and welcome to Blackstone, the center of the world, but then you too are at the center of the world. So, yesterday I had a marvelous day. I spoke at a Colonial Heights Community Center about using your home and creating personalized rituals to clean the mind of worry and upset, old age, sickness, and death. But that's another topic anyway. So the title of the title I just wrote down, I just kind of like I'm high on this idea and I wanted to share with you. And the title is, Are You Gender Fluid? Now this came up because Billy D. Williams apparently has said something, he was gender fluid, and now he's got to clarify what does that mean. So I clarified it. I wrote about it. And I'm kind of informed by what I discovered. I discover myself when I write, and I discover myself when I talk to you. And so I'm always surprised. So gender fluid, okay. Let's get a wide brush here. Let's get a wide. As a photographer, I love the wide angle lens. The wide angle lens, and I'll be 83 next week, so that's a wide angle lens. And I was awake and aware and an adult in the 60s and in the 50s. And these two decades, juxtaposed to each other, tell us everything about what's going on now. Now, in the 50s, gender was not fluid. Men are men, women are women. And this is the way it's been historically in Western culture, thanks to the reference to the Bible. You have to understand, I hope I don't digress here, but after the collapse of the Roman Empire and the superimposition of the Holy Roman Catholic Church, which was a new layer cake on the same cake, let's put it that way. The bottom layer collapsed and the next layer came on as the Holy Roman Catholic Church, and it superimposed a mythology in a way of making the world coherent through reference to the Bible. And so when the Catholic cake collapsed at the end of the Middle Ages, a Protestant cake was put on top. And that referred to the Bible too. And the Bible is an ancient culture of rigid gender roles. There wasn't even, it was just, they didn't have gender. Right? In other words, everything is fixed. Everything is fixed, you see. And the 50s was the last decade of fixed gender roles. You couldn't even say pregnant in the movies. Now, sex, the body, any mention of the body was forbidden. It was a very Puritan decade. The blue laws and church, Bible rules, Bible was superimposed over secular society. And then in the 60s, it just all broke up. And what happened in the 60s was that gender roles collapsed. You see, now let's go to Plato. Okay. Now, Plato has an origin story. All cultures have a creation story. There's the Bible. Bible has two of them, by the way, but the creation story. And Plato had one, which was, the Greek story. And the Plato's myth was that man was originally androgynous, male and female. Got 4 arms, 4 legs. Androgynous. Okay. And it's a very powerful being. And the gods were worried because he threatened the power of the gods. So they went to Zeus and said, well, you got to fix this guy. So Zeus divided man into 2 parts, male, female, so that they would spend their lives trying to rediscover their original face, their original unity. okay? And that way they were deflected from taking power from the gods. So they were concerned with their own, with discovering their unity, their divided self, you see. So the idea here, and this is Zen, by the way, you know, in my roundabout way, what is your face before your parents were born? You see, well, Plato's saying it's androgynous. You're both male, female. And ambiguous. You can't separate them. Both powers are mixed together, you see, both one. And each is a power, you see. Male power is active, female power is receptive. And they dance together like Fred and Ginger. You can't have, you know, if you're dancing and both partners try to lead, you're going to fall all over the place. And both partners can't follow. So you play back and forth. One leads, other follows. One leads, other follows. So relationships are like that. I'm leading now. Now I'm following. You got strengths, I'll follow your strength. You got strengths, I'll follow your strengths. And you dance like that, you see. But when it's rigid, you can't dance. Well, you can dance, but only one way. And this creates a problem because, see, our original androgyny is that we're original. Babies, infants are both male, female. It isn't until they begin to separate into social roles that they begin to define themselves, you see. Now, of course, nature defines ourselves biologically, but that has nothing to do with our original androgyny, our gender fluidity, you see. So we form into social roles, and in the 50s they were very defined. Men are men, women are women. And you get the frilly little 50s women, and you get the armored men, okay. So it broke down in the 60s, and what is our image in the 60s, you see, is that rock music came. And of course, when that began to happen in the 50s, you should remember the threat and the panic that Elvis brought to the rigid gender roles, because Elvis was a little androgynous in the sense that he moved his body. You see, feminine means body, male means mind, rigid definition, you see. Females got the body, men got the mind. But then Elvis wiggled his body. Frank Sinatra, Bing Crosby, they were crooners. Their bodies didn't move. Well, maybe their hands a little bit, but it was all up here. Elvis was all here, you see. That freaked people out. But anyway, you move into the Beatles. Now, what was that long hair about, you see? That's feminine. So the Beatles were bringing forth their feminine side. And that broke the whole 60s apart, you see. The 60s became, and 70s became androgynous. Look at, well, I haven't got, but just look at your rock stars in the 70s. I can't even think of their names now, but they're all androgynous, male, female. You can't tell them apart. Men with lipstick, long hair, puffy lips, androgyny. And it was very creative. When this happens in society, it's a renaissance. It's an explosion of creativity, because the energy that's locked up in the rigid social definition, you see, the rigid social definition is liberated. But it's also confusing, you see, to people who ask the question, well, who am I? I'm a man, I'm a woman. What do I do? What do I look like? Well, how do I behave? What's my role? Where's my place? You see, we're like fixed, you see. We need that security. Sudden chaos is like a tsunami. This sweeps everything away. Who am I? I don't know, you see. It's terrifying and liberating, you see. So if you get an idea here of this gender fluidity, we're in that right now. All this LBGT stuff, you see, it's all about gender fluidity, discovering our gender fluidity and our androgyny, see, and working out who I am as a balance between male and female. Now, a whole person, a Renaissance man, as Jung called it, individuated man. A mature woman, a mature human being, not man or woman, a mature human being recognizes their androgynous behavior and the fact that you confront your biological gender as your persona, but underneath there are both powers working. So you, whatever the situation is, you can respond from your male or female side. If the situation responds active, rational, male power, you respond that way. If it requires receptive, fluid, intuitive female power, you respond that way. So you go back, you dance. Fred and Ginger is inside you, but you're appropriate. You're appropriate to the demands of the moment, by whichever, you see. So you're able to move with the moment and a dance with both your powers. And Carl Jung called this the animus and the anima, you see. They're female and male principles. These are not divided in the psyche, although biologically they work differently, you see, in order so we can procreate, so they can fit together, you see. So it all gets very fluid and confusing in a time like now, because these roles are historical roles of gender, social roles. It's kind of like ice meets water. It's kind of like winter meets spring. It's kind of like ice meets melting, you see. And the ice fears melting. And the melting fears knowing what to do, what my position, what my role is, you see. So it is a gender fluid time. I wanted to show this picture because this is a picture of my daughter when she was in Hedwig in the Angry Inch, a New York play, and she was on tour with this. And she played Yucksack, which was Hedwig's. Hedwig was a androgynous being, and Yucksack was a male with a female body. And in the end of the movie, Yucksack, this little male figure who was very masculine, came out on stage in his true nature, which was my daughter had played that part, you see. And she had to, she got the part because when she was trying out, she dressed as a male, she made up the makeup, she made her face into a male face, Yucksack, and she walked around in New York in that outfit just to get to feel what it feels like, a woman get to feel like what it feels like to be a man in the masculine posture. So she was able to learn the body posture and the movements, you see, of the male, you see. She got the part, you see. But that point right there, that liberation of your forgotten twin, that liberation of your forgotten half, that liberation of your animus or anima, you see. Because when it's rigid and frozen in ice, they would chase it out there. So if I'm frozen in a male gender, where is my other twin, you see? Well, it's going to be out there, so I'll have to chase it out there. And if you catch one and then you get married, your other half is still is still calling you. So well, there she is again, and off you go, having an affair. You know, chasing her after an hour, or the same with the female, you know. So that unless we come to terms with, unless we realize, unless we melt, and allow both our and become gender fluid, and allow both our separated androgynous being to live together in the same psyche, we lose our creativity. So the creativity is when two opposites come together and create a new being. That's sex. That's biology. Two opposites come to rub together and boom, a new baby, a new being, a new world, you see. A new world is born. And it's born androgynous. And then society will shape that fluid into a male role or a female role, you see. And then they go like this, you know, coming together, creating new worlds, you see. So this theme of the male and female, but in our psyche, in our human psyche, they are originally, before consciousness, before our social roles, before me, before my persona, there's one, you see. So that's Zen. What is your face before your male and female parents are born? What is your face, you see? Well, you can't see it. You can't be conscious of it because it's androgynous. It is the mixture of two, but the potential is there. The potential is there, you see. So the creative moment, the Zen moment, the satori, the aha, you see, is when these two contradictions come together. Boom, like when lightning strikes and the air rushes into vacuum and goes kaboom. It's the grand illumination. Aha, I see. I know what to do. I'm appropriate. I'm doing the right thing in the right moment at the right time, you see. It's appropriate. It could be hard or soft, aggressive or receptive. Either way, it doesn't matter because they're both within us as potential, you see. Anyway, that was my Zen fit for today. And so I say, be gender fluid. It's okay. If you run from this is the people getting, young people especially, they realize their androgyny, their gender fluidity, and then if they feel the opposite, oh my God, I'm gay. Or if your buddies, your peer group, pick out a little deviation in your male behavior, see, they ridicule you. And then you go out and got to beat up a gay person to prove that you're not gay. Interesting, isn't it? Thanks for dropping in.